And also thanks, Annemarie and Daria, because some of this you are already doing in the projects that you work on. You're already making impact. And I really would like to invite you to give one example of what you are doing to see how you can really change a system.
Yeah. Thanks. And then Daria, maybe you can share, you have a few pictures. Jonathan, we're kicking you off the screen. And thanks so much, because I think what I really, listening to you again, it kind of hit me, and also listening to the brief introductions that we heard from each other this afternoon, is that there is already a lot of knowledge, there's already a lot of awareness, there's already a lot of energy to push the envelope and make change work. And I think the perspective that we come from is always to connect the unusual suspects and make sure that by creating those personal connections between people that have different pieces of the puzzle, you can actually really change a system. The example that we want to share is an example that we've done, that we're still involved in. We started a few years ago. It started with a commercial organization, a European organization that is a trader in water techniques and solutions, like from dripping systems to pipelines to even swimming pools. You can debate about that. They were facing a lot of commercial issues in terms of their sales numbers, but they were also facing leadership issues in their European leadership team. And they were very lucky to have a CEO that is on a mission. He said, well, it's not enough to just make profit. I want to be of value add to the world in a different way. So can we reinvent our strategy where we face the business challenges that we have, but also face a different challenge in terms of what's our value add to the world. I think it takes courage of a CEO to do that, and also takes courage to hand that assignment to us and say, well, help me to shake up my team and do something about this. What we did is that we did a few team intervention in Europe before we took them to Kenya and connected them with Amref Health Africa, and on an operation called Mission Water, because, well, we felt they have the techniques to actually make access to water possible. But yeah, if you want to contribute to one of the SDGs, access to water, and you don't know, you just conceptually know what it is to have no access to water, it makes sense to talk and work and learn from people who do know what it is, and also who have already created a lot of experience and knowledge about how to deal with that. So we took them to Africa, which was a big step for most of them. They were scared shitless coming to the first breakfast meeting and dressed up like they were going to an Out of Africa party. And I think that's also, I make a little bit fun about it, but I think it also shows the vulnerability of people, because, well, for them it was a new context, and they were meeting leaders from communities, local communities in Africa that actually, well, as you can see in this picture, face the challenges that come with no access to water, which obviously has, by the way, a strong connection to food. On the next picture, you can see what the issue is. This is what happens. We took them to a Maasai community, this whole leadership team, and we made them connect and talk hands, feet, like nonverbal, and like with some of the interpreters, to talk to women who have to go up at 5 and walk for a few hours to get water, and being harassed on their way by animals or men, having big issues and big troubles in actually getting access to water. So it really became very clear in the faces of this mega group people that actually what it means if you don't have water from a tap. So what do we do? Because, well, now we kind of see the problem, but yeah, and we talk to these women and we feel a bit embarrassed, but then what do you do? And I think it has to start there, that you really feel touched by, okay, it really makes me uncomfortable that these differences are there in the world, and also to understand what is going on. And I think it starts with a human connection, and that's where we always start, like making people really connect heart to heart, with very personal stories exchanging, And discovering that we might look differently, we might have been born on a different place in the world, but that you actually share a lot in common in what we need to be happy and to live a fulfilled life. I think here you see a warm handshake between a British guy and one of the AMREF experts on water. And really, we didn't talk about the whole issue for the first 2 days, I guess, before we dove into the whole challenge. We really made them immerse in the context and in the discomfort of being in the issue at hand. And then it starts diving into that challenge and learning from what already has been done, and kind of getting all the pieces of the puzzle together. I think what you just shared, Jonathan, in the tipping points that you need, I think if you look at who's in the room today, there are a lot of different pieces of the puzzle already in the room. And this is where you kind of, and that's also what we're looking after to do with this program, and to get those pieces out and kind of connect in ways that you would have never expected beforehand. And this is an example of how you can do that. We like to play and to make it playful. And it always creates like a new language that goes beyond cultural and different languages, but it creates a kind of connection as well. You see, there's a lot of fun around the prototype that we're creating here. And surprisingly quickly, I'm always amazed by that, because, well, just to give you an impression, it was a 5-day journey, 4.5 days, with the kind of culture shock that a lot of the European people were facing. And by really connecting, diving into the context, meeting new people, working on making it tangible, what it means, and all bringing the pieces of the puzzle together, within 5 days, they came up with a whole business plan, a social business plan. Where you can really see how they mapped out in a very simple way the different stakeholders at hand, and how you can actually bring out the commercial knowledge, the interest of the government, but also their health NGO knowledge, to connect in a different way, to come up with a new business model, a social business model. Because, well, the NGOs are depending on donors, commercial businesses are depending on clients, but we all know there are different ways of generating money as well. And I love Denge's big smile, because I think it was a great kind of start of the water starters movement. Because up till today, we know today it does work. So the leaders shook hands and are brothers for life. I always love this picture. Because it shows the great connection. And this is where we are today. Water Starters is a social enterprise, which is partly, the two founding partners are Mega Group and the health NGO AMREF. And it just, last year, 4 water boreholes started, and money generating and community owned. I think that's the most specific part of this. So it's not like Mega Group is drilling water bores in Africa and goodbye, good luck. And I think we've learned a lot about that the last years. That doesn't work. But what makes it special here is what we learned with the communities is that it should be community owned. So they have to invest themselves as a community, 15% at least, to become owners of the water points. And they're also very creative in making money in other ways around those water points. And therefore, it becomes a sustainable business model in the end. Of course, it needs some funding in the beginning, but you see a different attitude within communities, because they feel super responsible for it, because they're owner of a water point. And well, it's a rocky road, as you can imagine, long distance and connecting all those dots globally, with governments that have different pacing in Kenya than we have sometimes here in the Netherlands. So it requires a lot of my Dutch patience. But I'm really, really proud to see where we already are today, and how much communities are. Once one community starts, more of them will actually follow, and that's what we see today. I try to wrap it up pretty quickly, because I see that time's ticking. It's a big story, so I can imagine a little bit much after listening to Jonathan as well. But feel free to ask me anything, or Daria, that kind of triggers you, because I think this is an example of how you can connect different pieces of the puzzle and different people.
Thank you so much, Annemarie. And indeed, if you have a question, please raise your hand physically or by putting up the thumb, either to Jonathan or to Annemarie, or some other questions. And I think that what you showed so brilliantly is that you can only change what you really feel. So you have to experience, and that's also why you bring in the people who are the leaders of this organization, of this water technology organization, to bring them to the place where they can really experience and connect to people who are experiencing drought, experiencing the change, the climate change themselves. And then you can also really change something. So we tend to work with the head, heart, and hands. So you need to have the head to understand systems thinking, for instance, to have a common language, but also the heart. So you need to connect with each other, but also with the people who are at stake. And hands, and that's what Jonathan also talked about. We need to plan and do to really make some impact, and that's also what you showed with this water starters initiative. Great. Are there some questions or remarks? These moments. Thanks a lot. You're welcome. So